What up, squad? D20 here, and it's happened. The patch notes for the December 16th patch for Back 4 Blood have been leaked. The developers have said it's okay to share this leaked information, however they prefer you mark it spoilers. So, that being said, spoilers ahead for anyone interested in these patch notes. And while I promise you I will do a more in-depth review on how these changes feel sometime after the 16th, I figured today it'd be pretty good if I just give you a rundown on what I feel to be the most important changes in this patch. So let's take a look! So, the most important things I found under the new features heading was the addition of offline progression, which was a huge oversight for them to omit in the first place, so very much needed correction being done there. We'll have a new supply line with single-use burn cards that apply a one-time effect, so that could be very interesting, very curious to see how that's going to affect things. We're getting new regular cards as well, which is awesome. Shake up the meta a little bit. Fort Hope will be getting a holiday-themed cosmetic upgrade, and we'll also be getting, in addition to the firing range and the boxing ring, we'll be getting an area to practice playing as the Ridden, which I think is a good idea. Maybe get people a little more curious about playing the multiplayer mode. Also, the bots that we play with will be randomized, which is good. Gets a little dull playing with the same bots every time. And we'll also be getting stat tracking enabled in training. I'm not quite sure explicitly what that refers to. I hope it's a way for us to see how much we can heal with different cards equipped and stuff like that, because right now there's not a great way to test your healing builds other than actually playing the campaign. And speaking of campaign, the most noteworthy updates I saw in this section was that we'll be getting an additional card draw in Act 2 and 3, which can go a huge way. The boxes you need to get in Dr. Rogers' Neighborhood T5 will become highlighted after you haven't found them for a certain while, which is definitely going to be a huge help. I agree that maybe it's a little fun to scavenge and try and find the boxes, in that giant 3-story house for a little while, but sometimes they're really hidden, and I think this is a simple change that will definitely help with that level at least. They mentioned how they're trying to bring the speed cards a little more in line with how most other people play the game, like a little bit slower, more combat-oriented approach as opposed to the speed run, get the level done fast approach. So overall, speed cards have gotten nerfed, and combat cards have gotten buffed a little bit. So you can see the trend here is that they do want you to, according to them, based on feedback from the community, they want you to play the game a little slower and really fight your way through the hordes instead of running your way through them. Healing has gotten some buffs and some nerfs depending on the cards, but most interestingly is that healing efficiency buff now also applies to temporary health, so that's good. In most situations you should be dropping your meds and letting Doc apply them to you when possible, and this just makes that even more the way to do it. It also seems like they're giving us more tools to deal with trauma, and I've seen it suggested on Reddit that the Safe Room Recovery card, when stacked, could hypothetically eliminate the need for a healer altogether on Veteran and Nightmare. I'm not sure about that personally, but definitely going to be interesting to see how the changes play out. And with regard to corruption card changes, they have now implemented that no more boss cards will be dealt to you at the start of an act, which is good. For however hard or difficult you find the game, you can't admit that early boss spawn, when you have just tier 1 weapons, not a lot of cards, can really deaden your game a little bit. It's like, well, why not just re-roll and not put ourselves at a disadvantage at the beginning, which kind of makes the RNG seem very superficial. So this is good. You always get a more or less even start. You're not going to get that ridiculously hard boss card right off the bat. So I think this is good. This will make more runs start out on the right foot. Also, fog density has been lowered, which I'm a fan of. Sometimes the fog can be a bit much. And under other, we have some small aim assist buffs, even on PC, particularly when aiming at armored Special Infected, which is interesting. Your Razor Wire now goes in the quick slot, which seems like an odd choice, but I kind of like it, keeping the throwables, offensive throwables, in the throwable slot, and, you know, something that's a little more defensive but can still do damage, like the Razor Wire, being in the quick slot. I can see it, honestly. I think this will be kind of good and let the Razor Wire see a little more play. And now we got the difficulty. If you happen to watch this channel regularly, well, thank you. But you'll know I came out with a video recently pointing out a couple things that I'd like to see the game improve to make itself more palatable to a wider audience. And difficulty was pretty much primary among them. And it seems that those suggestions have not fallen on deaf ears. While there's a whole lot of stuff to get into here, I'm aiming for brevity on this video, so you can just listen to it, get the highlights, and delve in deeper at your own pace. But just to give a very bare-bones summary, it seems like we're getting a buff on Recruit, so if you found Recruit to be easy to begin with, it's getting even easier now. On Veteran, Friendly Fire is getting rebalanced, which is good because you go from, you know, on Recruit doing very little friendly fire damage to significant friendly fire damage on Veteran, so that can be pretty abrasive for a lot of people making the switch from one difficulty to another. And on Veteran, we also will, this is kind of incredible to me, this single change alone is going to make Veteran infinitely more doable, particularly with randoms. The sleepers don't summon hordes anymore. What? So that's, like, while they are doing things to change the amount of hordes that you get spawned, which we'll get into in a second, this single change alone is just huge. I mean, I can't say it enough. Sleepers don't summon a horde on Veteran anymore. Wowee. Also, instead of 1 free cabinet use, on Recruit you get 4 free cabinet uses, then it costs 400. And on Veteran previously you would get 1 free use, but now you get 2. Similarly, on Nightmare mode, goes from 0 free uses to 1 free cabinet use, and because you pretty much always need it on that difficulty, it's basically like getting an extra 400 copper. Nightmare mode also is reducing the amount of damage mutations do, the trauma damage they do when they incap you, their stumble resistance has been downed as well. So basically across the board, we are getting easier modes. Every single mode, whether you found it easy or not to begin with, it's going to be a little easier now. This is very interesting to me because if you remember, they released a Road Ahead graphic, which you're seeing here, and it said one of the new things that they'll be introducing is a new difficulty mode. And I was like, geez, Nightmare's hard enough. Like, less than 1% of the community, I think if you look at the achievements at least a little while ago, less than 1% of the community has beaten all the maps on Nightmare. And so you're going to add another difficulty? That just seemed crazy to me. Then I thought, oh, maybe it's an intermediate step in between Recruit and Veteran, or perhaps an intermediate step in between Veteran and Nightmare. But with this new information, and the fact that it seems like they're rebalancing the difficulty to skew easier all around, I think that new difficulty, don't know what they're going to call it, but I think it's going to be more difficult than Nightmare. And, well, what a treat for all the tryhards in the audience. And on the note of spawning, it seems that the game was spawning more hordes and special ridden than they had initially intended. And it seems the updates here tend to kind of get a wrap on that. During Endless Hordes and Back-to-Back Hordes, all hordes special are limited to 2 of a given type and a maximum of 4, which is huge because, you know, we've all seen, either experienced or seen some video clips of like 8 special ridden on the screen at once during a horde, and while those numbers can make for some intense scenarios, more often than not, it feels like a cheap, unbalanced way to make the game more difficult. So I think this is a very reasonable change that they made that should go a long way towards making the more difficulties a little more palatable. And for all the Dark Souls professionals who find Nightmare to be too easy, you'll have that new difficulty coming out sometime next year for you to grind on. So there you have it. What changes are you most excited for? Anything you wanted to see addressed that seems unaddressed? I'm genuinely curious, and I'd be genuinely grateful if you let me know in the comments down below. I'll catch you in the lobbies on the 16th, and as always, thank you for watching.